Once, in a village by the sea, there lived a poor fisherman named Anders and his young daughter, Elka. They were a quiet, humble pair, their days spent hauling nets and mending boats. The villagers often remarked on the girl's beauty, but what set her apart even more was her strange gift. Elka could speak to birds. It began when she was a child. Sparrows would land on her windowsill and chirp, as if conversing. Crows perched in the trees, watching her with their sharp black eyes, cawing in a manner that seemed almost like whispered secrets. Elka never spoke of it, for it was not a gift that made her proud, nor did it fill her heart with joy. There was something unsettling in their chatter, something she could not quite understand. One chilly autumn morning, as the winds howling across the shore, a great storm rolled in from the sea. Waves crashed against the cliffs, and the sky was a deep, bruised purple. Elka and her father worked desperately to secure their boat before the storm grew worse. But as they labored, Anders slipped on the wet rocks and fell into the angry sea. Elka screamed, her voice lost to the howling wind, as her father was swept away by the merciless tide. Grief consumed her. She searched for her father's body, but it was never found. The villagers offered their condolences, but they could do nothing to fill the hollow space in her heart. On the third night after Anders' disappearance, as Elka lay in her small, cold bed, she heard a familiar sound, a soft flutter of wings, and the gentle caw of the crow. She opened her eyes, and there, perched on her windowsill, was a crow, unlike any she had ever seen. Its feathers were blacker than the darkest night, its eyes gleaming like two polished stones. It gazed at her with an intelligence that unnerved her. "Come with me," it croaked, in a voice that echoed through the room, though its beak never moved. "I can take you to your father." Elka sat up, her heart pounding. "How do you know where he is?" The crow tilted its head, a dark smile in its voice. "The sea is not the end. Come, and you will see." Without thinking, Elka rose from her bed and followed the bird. The night was cold, the wind sharp, but she felt neither as she walked through the village, guided by the fluttering shadow of the crow. It led her down a path to the cliffs where her father had fallen, and there, at the edge, it stopped. "Here," it said, its voice now a whisper on the wind. "Here you will find what you seek." Elka peered over the edge, the dark waves crashing below. She saw nothing, only the churning sea and the jagged rocks. But as she stared, the water began to change. It stilled, and then, in its depths, a figure began to rise. First it was a shadow, then a form, and then her father, pale and cold, his eyes empty as the moonlit sea. His arms reached out to her. "Father," she cried, reaching for him. But the crow cawed sharply, and the illusion shattered. Her father's figure dissolved back into the waves, and Elka stumbled back from the edge, her heart racing in terror. "That was not him," the crow said softly. "The sea has taken him, and he will not return. But if you wish to see him again, you must give something in return." Elka looked at the crow, her mind clouded with grief. What must I give? The crow's eyes gleamed. Your voice. Elka hesitated, her hand at her throat. Her voice, her gift, was all she had left, but the thought of her father lost and alone beneath the waves was too much to bear. I will give it, she whispered. The crow fluttered to her shoulder, its wings brushing against her cheek like a cold breath. Then it is done. Elka felt a sudden stillness within her. She opened her mouth, but no sound came. Her voice was gone. The crow, satisfied, took flight, leaving her alone on the cliff's edge. She returned to the village, silent and grieving, her heart heavy with the weight of her bargain. Days turned to weeks, and villagers noticed the change in her. Elka, once so full of life and song, now wandered ashore in silence, her eyes always on the sea. The birds no longer spoke to her, and even the crows kept their distance. One evening, as she sat by the water, she saw a shipwrecked boat wash ashore. Among the wreckage, she found a small, weathered box, its wood splintered and worn by the sea. Inside was a single white feather and a note, written in her father's hand. Do not seek me where I cannot be found. Some things, once lost, are meant to stay that way. Tears filled her eyes, but she could not cry out. She could only sit in silence, the weight of her choices pressing down on her like the tide. The crow had given her what she thought she wanted, but it had cost her more than she could ever have known. From that day on, Elka never spoke again. She lived the rest of her days in quiet solitude, by the sea where she had lost her father. The villagers said that in the end, her silence was not a curse, but a blessing. A reminder that some things in life, no matter how painful, must be let go. The moral was never spoken, but it lingered in the air. Sometimes the things we long for most are the very things that will destroy us. And in the end, it is not always the answers we seek that bring us peace, but the quiet acceptance of what is.